So we got Men Talk. So today, I think the topic that I kind of want us to explore today is about toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think this was kind of inspired by a series of events that sort of happened recently with Terry Crews. I think a lot of us know who Terry Crews is. He's a big, strong black actor who has started
as
in
an
films.
NFL player, right?
Yeah. So he's got that kind of build. He's a very muscular guy.
Yeah. He loves to take his top off, right?
I mean, yeah. If you got it, then you flaunt it. And
Bloody yeah.
I mean, and he's definitely someone that you could see that he's been to the gym before, at least once in his life, right?
Just once, yeah.
So he testified recently in support of lots of women who have experienced some sort of assault or sexual assault, some sort of harassment in the entertainment industry to kind of coincide with the Me Too movement. So he kind of came up and testified about an incident that he had as a black man where he was in a kind of black tie event with his wife, and there was this high-powered agent, a white man, who came and grabbed his genitals in front of his wife. And he talked about that experience and how he didn't knock this guy out or beat this guy or whatever, and saying that if that could happen to him, then he could imagine how much women, a guy like him who's strong, big, and obviously can handle himself, if that could happen to him, how much more with the women? So he wanted to kind of testify to be able to kind of, I think, buttress this kind of case towards supporting and creating more immunity for women who come forward, who then get villainized for talking about some of the experiences of sexual assault and harassment that they've experienced in the entertainment industry. But what was interesting about that is the kind of vitriol and kind of, I guess, butt of the joke that he was to a faction of men on social media who were laughing and kind of ridiculing him about, well, how can a guy like you, big hench guy like you, get harassed by a guy? Why didn't you knock him out? Why does this happen? Oh man, you're soft, you're this, you're that. And this was kind of spearheaded by 50 Cent and Russell Simmons, who were memeing him and laughing and making jokes. And that really just made me question this kind of idea of how, as a society, that completely summarizes the problem of how toxic masculinity has become the norm. And obviously I have to mention that there's a huge faction of men as well who were like, men and women who were really championing the fact that it took bravery for him to come out and do that. So I think there's two sides of it, but it was really interesting for me to see especially spearheaded by some male celebrities as well, who were also openly kind of laughing at him and just ridiculing him. And it just made me just kind of question our society and how we view masculinity in these spaces where we don't feel like it's okay for you to step out of this box of what masculinity has been prescribed to you to be. And in this case, a man who's physically dominating to just do what he should do, which is knock him out and end that conversation there and then. So people were questioning, why didn't you bang him up? Why didn't you do this? You were with your wife. Oh man, and you let that happen to you. That's what I found problematic. Is that the only way he could have dealt with the situation versus what he did? You know, so what do you think about just the way that masculinity is branded in those factions, and is that a problem that we are facing within our kind of society today?
I think it definitely is a problem, but I just want to go back to something and just to play the devil's advocate. The question is, why did he not? And not even in the thing of banging him out. I don't mean that, but why did he not step up to him there and then?
Step up to him, because he did step up to him. He didn't just let that happen. He stepped up to him, but he didn't use violence.
Yeah. So because I think sometimes as well, it comes back to that mob mentality I was saying from the first when we started having that conversation, which is sometimes we don't do the right thing at the right time, and we leave it till we see other people doing something and we go, oh, now I'm gonna join in. Because the reason why I say that is maybe, and this is a huge maybe, if he has really stepped up on that day.
Stepped up in what? Describe what that looks like.
So stepping up is making it abundantly clear that this is unacceptable. Even maybe going to the media at that time and not sweeping and not maybe dealing with it there and going, okay, that's it.
Because what he did, what he said he did was he stepped up to the guy and said, that's unacceptable. Yeah. He reported him to the agency that he worked for.
If he did that, then that's fine.
And yeah, that was the situation.
If he did that, because the reason why I say that is sometimes you need to disconnect or cut off the head of that snake before it gets any further. Because if I manage to do that now, maybe, just maybe, it stops that person from doing it again the following day. But if I resolve it in a way that is just me today, that person then carries on and assaults someone else, or even takes it further than they did today the following day. So whenever we have the opportunity, sometimes we need to grow some boldness and maybe deal with certain opportunities in a certain kind of way, so it stops someone else on another day from experiencing that.
Absolutely, but then just sorry, as a segue from that really quickly, just going from that is there an expectation that you should, as a man, feel like you need to deal with that in that way? And that's the problem. That's the question about the toxic masculinity. Is there a myriad of ways in which you could deal with that is not that only way of dealing with it based on the prescription of what you should do as a man? Which because is in most cases
prescription, right? There isn't even any. I think
based on the outcome of people's reactions to that, there was an expectation, and the expectation is, as a big man like you should knock him out. You should physically impose yourself in that situation, so he knows he should have never done that. So that is the expectation,
you though, right? So the argument is, if he had dealt with it that way, all you teaching the person that did it was, you do not dare do it to me. But you've really not taught him you do not dare do it, period. Right. So then what's stopping him from, if you see someone that's less physically imposing or vulnerable, they'll do it to that person, because you've not sent a clear signal. And you always go back to the pocket, right? Like I always say this, especially for these executives and these moguls, you hit them hard if you hit their pockets. If you smack them, that's nothing to them. If you hit their pocket, that's where you hit them out. So the way he dealt with, because I did not know he actually went reported to the agencies and all that. That is actually, in my opinion, that's the right way to do it. Because you clip him more that way rather than telling him you do not deal with someone like me. Because then all you're saying is, all right, if you met someone that you feel you physically can impose yourself on, then you're okay to do it, right? So, and you're definitely right. There is, I think it's culturally, men are supposed to be macho. We're supposed to not show a lot of emotions. We're supposed to sort of brush certain things under the carpet, rightfully or wrongfully. So whenever a guy shows their vulnerable side, we tend to look at that guy in a certain kind of light. But really, to show your vulnerable side being a guy, it's actually one of the bravest things you can do, especially in public. That is extremely brave. So for him to come out and almost bare his soul to the public, it's a very brave thing. From these guys, some of these celebrities to come out and have a laugh, you're very right. It shows the kind of world that we live in, where someone could actually say, you know what, someone, regardless of size, let's put size and look aside for a second. To live in a world where someone comes in and says, I got assaulted, and the response is to poke fun of that person and not the person that actually did assaulting, tells us the kind of world that we live in sometimes, where we almost would belittle someone for feeling vulnerable. That person felt vulnerable for a reason. That person did what they did for a reason, because they know that in that space they had power. Believe you me, outside that space, he probably would never have approached him and done what he did. But in that space, regardless of physicality, he felt he had the power there. Absolutely. And he could do whatever he wanted in that space. There's a lot of reasons why these people, these tiny, puny, repugnant men, do these things in the space that they do them in. Because in that space, they hold all the power. They hold all the cards. If you don't do this, I'm taking this away from you. If you don't do this, this is what I'm going to do to you. And because they hold all the power in that space, they're probably 10 feet tall. And they know that. So for us to belittle these people in that space and not and not understand where they're coming from and why what happened to them, that tells you the society that we live in. And as people and as men, we need to start being accountable. Maybe we need to start behaving differently. We need to start
What does
sharing.
that look like?
So I think it's also a generational thing, right? So it's always what our parents passed on to us, what our parents' passed on to them, right? So we take a bit of that DNA and a little bit of that teaching, and then we pass on to our kids. And I think from a generational thing, I think it's up to you and I and our peers to start communicating and start teaching our kids differently. That, you know, it's not okay, it's not healthy to not cry. What were you told when you were growing up? Men don't cry.
Yeah.
That was like the staple thing. That was like it wasn't even like a right or wrong thing. For me, it was what it was.
Who told you that? Did someone actually?
Yeah, my dad would tell me that.
Men don't cry.
See, my dad will smack me and then say, men don't cry. So basically, all that pain that I've got inside, I'm not supposed to get
Basically,
out.
he taught you at that point how to be an actor.
Yeah, literally, yeah. And that
you
was the
feel
facade.
like crying, but you need to act like you don't
it was
feel
okay. And you go into the world with that, and you never question. You almost never question your parents.
Became your
right?
default.
Yeah, and it becomes your default. And even now, I feel I'm old and I know better.
So now you're gonna cry now?
I know the tears are about to drop right now. But do you know what I mean? And it becomes like a default setting to you, and you don't question why that is, and you never question why you grow up and you get a little bit closed off certain emotions, and you kind of push it away a little bit when it starts getting a little bit murky. And then this bleeds into, so when you live in a society like Hollywood where it's even more intense, how do you react? Do you know what I mean? Do you pretend it's not happened? Do you just sweep it under the rug and hope, okay, it's not happening to me, cross your fingers that as long as it doesn't happen to you, you don't care? And so these are very strong emotions that as men, as modern men, we need to start dealing with.
Absolutely. I think, you definitely hit the nail on the head in terms of how deeply rooted it is, because I don't think anyone wakes up today and just thinks, I'm going to try and not cry. It's just because those are the things that have been conditioned within us over the years. And obviously me personally, it's the same story. I don't think I was explicitly told don't cry, but I think, just picking things up in just the ways that societally we've been conditioned. Something happens, I might fall down when I was younger and then I want to cry. And someone says, oh, stop being like your sister, or stop being like a girl, or stop being a wuss, or other words like that.
How many times have you been told the word man?
Absolutely, because then what that creates is it creates this clear dissonance between being a man and being vulnerable. Because when someone tells you man up, it shows you that what you're doing right now is actually not manly. So therefore, you need to forego that and then look towards this idealism of what being a man is. So therefore, it creates this culture of young boys and young men that feel like to be masculine, you have to be hyper masculine. So therefore, when you're in a situation where you feel wronged, the way to exert your masculinity is to show hyper-aggression, is to show that you're unfazed emotionally, but you have to react physically. So therefore, it breeds a culture of emotionally stunted, emotionally infant men who, irrespective of how old they end up being in terms of age,
there's still that 12-year-old
emotionally,
boy inside.
they have a stunted growth within themselves. And that is something that we then start to see kind of take shape within relationships where, domestic violence gets used as a sense of power, which is what you highlighted, where in every other ways, you're not able to express that she's angered you or you're feeling belittled or emasculated by various things. So therefore, you're trying to atone for that. You're trying to make up for this lack thereof by using physical imposition and power against this person who you're more domineering than. And that those are, so many examples of how this toxic masculinity sort of transpires in the way that we live. And it's something that as a society, as a culture, as a community of men, we need to sort of, as you highlighted, start to educate ourselves first and challenge these things within ourselves. Because every time, we're with men or other groups of individuals and something comes up, we should feel empowered to challenge that, to say, bro, man, that's It's not right, man. Don't say that. You know, like
it's quite interesting. I was having a conversation with one of my sales advisors earlier, right? And he was
one of your strippers, you say.
That's all you, Kunle. That's all you. I think sometimes you feel you're looking in the mirror, you know, but you're not. I've got loads of hair, you ain't got none.
I ain't knocking strippers. Do what you do.
Yeah, you gotta do it too, but that just ain't me.
No, neither it's me. It's not me, but you know, I'm just saying. I just thought that's what I heard you say. You know, just thought I'd check.
So and he was going through issues, and it was something to do with sort of like manliness. So it was like he was finding it was that key thing of man up, right? So he would get into situations where when he's speaking to me, it was clearly he had the option of going, you know what, not today, I'm good, right? But from his standpoint, he felt if he did that, he wasn't man enough. So situations where he could clearly have gone, you know what, guys, you guys okay? And just dealt with in the complete diplomatic matter, he felt he had to go head on because that was the only way he could justify his manliness. That was the only way he could feel, oh, I'm not quote unquote a pussy. And after he said all of that, I said to him, just take a step back for 1 second, right? And pretending I am the one talking to you about what you just said to me. Take emotions out of this for 1 second and be objective. Take yourself out of that zone. After all this, if I asked you, what would the best case scenario be? What would you say? He goes, you know what? I should have just said to them, guys, it's fine. You know what? I'm leaving. Or, you know what? You shoved me, but I know I'm in the middle of a busy train. That shove was not intentional, right? So I should not feel that you actually targeted me. You came all the way to me to shove me. So I should not have escalated that situation to a point where now it became physical, because it's all started from something that was things that happened in the train. So I gave him a typical example, as in, you know, I love my trainers, right?
Yeah. So, do you? I couldn't even tell.
So
can you just give us a hint how many you have?
Just one.
Okay. So couple zeros at the bottom of that.
So it's like, if I wore one of my favorite pairs and I was going out to a rave, I had to make that choice of someone was going to step on my sneaker that day. It's a must. I'm in a spot where people will step on your sneakers, or someone might spill a drink on your sneaker. So if I made a decision to wear that, I need to be sure that I'm happy with the fact that someone's going to step on my sneaker.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to wear one of my favorite pairs to a rave or a club or whatever, and then feel a kind of way when someone bumps into me or step on my sneaker, because that's what we do here. So if I'm going there and then I'm bringing the energy of no one comes near me, I've already lost, because I'm going to go there, I'm not going to have a good time. So I need to go, okay, I'm sacrificing you for the night, I'm taking you there, and you might not come out the same. And I'm happy with that. And people will shove me, people will bump into me. Some people will literally, someone will step on my sneaker and will be so apologetic because they see it and go, oh shoot, oh, I can't believe I stepped on that. Dude, relax, man. Just have a great time. And that person
just fine. Can I step on it right now?
Oh, hell. Now here we have a problem. And that person would literally, oh, dude, you're so cool. Like, because I was expecting you to behave a certain kind of way or give me a certain kind of energy because I know how rare that are. I said, dude, I'm the one that wore it here. I should know the consequence of that action. And it's as simple as. So I narrated that to him and he goes like, you know what? You are right. Like, we can never, and this is very important, we can never control the actions of others. The only actions we can control is ours.
Absolutely.
The reactions we cannot control. So what energy we throw back is the energy that gets reflected back to us. And I always say this, if you treat people with respect, about 99.9% of the time, respect is reflected back at you. Don't get me wrong, you still have that 0.1% where you just meet assholes, you just meet dickheads, right? That they just having an awful day and they're just looking for someone to shit on. And no matter what respect you give them, they're going to reflect a different kind of energy to you. But majority of the time, people reflect energies. You come at someone with respect, a lot of the time, it's almost instinctual. They give that respect back. Even if they had bad intentions, it's like reciprocal thing. Like they automatically will come back at you with that respect energy. It's the same way. If someone came at you with respect or neutral, and you gave them disrespect, you get that energy back. You get that automatic, oh, okay, what do you want to do now then? So it's all about what we can control and just be happy with the fact that, you know what, you treat fellow human beings like the way you treat yourself, and the rest will take care of itself, in my opinion.
Absolutely. But then, do we think that there's any role that women also play in either perpetuating this toxic masculinity or in ways of suppressing this, or I guess ways of feeding a healthier masculinity?
No.
Is there a role that women play? Women don't play any role whatsoever.
I don't think women. I think this is one of those things where we cannot look for a scapegoat. It's all on us. And something I think as people, I'm not even going to say as men or women, as people, we're always looking for another side to go, oh, can they do anything to help us out? We need to start helping ourselves. And by helping ourselves, we engage with people differently. And by that, we'll engage with our opposite counterpart differently. And that is always going to be a win-win.
I hear that. But the question is, though, because one is not superimposed over the other.
Yeah.
So we need to do everything that we've talked
Yeah.
about in terms of as men, as
Yeah.
a group of men, we need to critically question all the
Yeah.
things that we do and why we do those things,
Yeah.
where they come from. But then on the flip side, looking at the role that women can do or have played in, also perpetuating that, is it wrong to also highlight those things?
How do they perpetuate
For example,
it?
no,
Yeah.
I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I've seen situations where women say, I want a bad boy.
Yeah.
Whatever that means to them
Yeah.
is, I want a guy who embodies this idea
Yeah.
of a masculine version of someone who looks intimidating.
Yeah.
People are scared of him because he's my boyfriend.
Yeah.
They know that he could smack someone up.
Yeah.
And he could. He treats women, blah, 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 but not me.
Yeah.
Because I'm his girl.
Yeah.
So that narrative of
Yeah.
wanting a particular type of guy
Yeah.
feeds the need for a guy to think I need to be that
Yeah.
guy. Because if I'm with a girl and I'm in a club with her and a guy just walks past and she says he taps her butt, she's expecting me to just go up to that guy
Yeah.
and just be like, why do you tap my girl's butt? You bang him,
Yeah.
right? Because that's her idea of what makes him a man to her.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's a pressure
Yeah.
for the guy to live up to that expectation. So can you separate both from one the other?
I think you can, and the two things. And sometimes, with me, I always like to debate from like taking a step back. So, yeah, that person might go, I like a bad boy, but not necessarily I like an unemotional bad boy, if that makes sense. So sometimes we assume the fact that she likes a bad boy doesn't mean that means the boy has to also be emotionally unavailable. You can have emotionally available bad boys.
But the thing is, these are things that I think are mutually exclusive.
Not necessarily.
Absolutely, because I don't think, because that's where the problem is. Because there's situations with these kind of women that things inevitably happen down the line. And you're looking at it and thinking, that's not a surprise to me.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get a guy who is mean to other women, but he's nice to you.
Nice to you.
Another guy who's violent to other men, but he will never hit you. Like, those two don't coexist.
Yeah, but that is also talking about another flawed human being. So, but we cannot live our lives through a minority flawed human being. Do you know what I mean? So that woman is not a popular woman. And by that I mean, that woman, if you look at the scope of the woman spectrum, that woman is a handful.
I don't think so. I mean, that's just one example, but I think there's definitely a healthy amount of those kind of women out there who perpetuate that same narrative, which I think becomes unhealthy because a lot of men feel like they need to live up to that idea and expectation of that type of man.
Yeah. So, but are we confusing, right? A woman wanting her man to be manly, and by that I mean,
by what definition?
I mean, every woman wants to be protected. Right? So every woman wants a guy that feels like they've got their back when they're in need. That is sort of a basic requirement for every relationship, right? So by that, it's not what she really wants is not, oh, I want you to go bang out another guy if they look at me differently. Yeah, you might have a minority of them that's what they mean. But what they mean is when shit is on the line, are you going to be able to step up and protect me? And that is a basic requirement. We, as men, can interpret that the way we want to interpret that, right? So if you're a vulnerable person or insecure person, that's the right word I'm looking for, who feels, okay, this is how I interpret it. I need to make sure that she sees me as a man at all times. I need to be the alpha in every room I go in. You will take that and run with it and feel, okay, someone looked at her that right way. Do I go to that person and go, dude, that's my girl? You might not have known that because obviously you do not know who is who in here, but that's my girl. Please show us some respect, right? Or
some respect on it.
Put some respect on it, as baby said. Or do you just go in and start wilding out? So our interpretation is very different. But the core thing is I'm sure our lady counterpart wants just to feel protected, wants to feel that the man has got her when she's in need. And being insecure or secure is how you will interpret that. Right?
I agree with that, but then what we're talking about is what breeds that insecurity. Because then there's
that comes with us.
As well as
because
what we might have been taught to see from what certain women that we looked out for are into. So for example, there's a lot of women that want guys who, I don't know, from a young age, they want a guy who, I don't know, drove this amount of this car and had all these things. So therefore, the guys
that comes back to security, though.
Huh?
That's what I mean. It all comes back to security.
Of course, but the point is what that breeds is these men now feel like they have to somehow achieve these things so to appease these women, because that's the idea of masculinity that they've seen based on what these women expect. So we cannot, to me, you cannot separate both.
I think
it's not a blame for the other. It's both things need to concurrently be challenged.
Yeah, it needs to be challenged, but once again, it's being objective. Because at the end of the day, we all have our criteria for picking our opposite partner, right? We all have criteria for picking up. And the female has been known to pick someone that they can feel protected by. Whether it's physical, whether it's financial, whether it's emotional, female has the propensity to pick someone that they feel secure with. It's as simple as, right? So it's not really on them to decide how we're going to play it. So when we go, because they want to feel secure, of course they want to feel secure. And we presume, it's because I need to have a bigger car. That is your issue.
But there are women that actively say that.
Yeah.
So
then, once again, is that the right woman for you?
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about trying to match perfection to perfection.
But that's what I mean.
We're just talking about the work that needs to be done on both sides.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. You're always going to have a minority that will do certain things.
But I don't think the problem is, I don't think that's a minority. That's what I'm saying.
I've dealt with a fair few women, right?
Yeah.
And I've never come across a woman that would go.
But we have to identify, because when you're talking about objectivity, you have to be able to step out of it. I don't select those kind of women. I don't put them around my space. But the point is, there is
towards them.
Huh? But that's what. But the fact is, they still exist.
I'm sure they are.
And we would never be the type of guy that they would
not even
align
like
with.
that.
Absolutely, but they still exist, which is the whole point of the conversation.
But so do you live your life according to what the people that might exist that are not even in your spectrum, right? Or do you live your life according to the way that makes you feel good?
But what we're trying to do is explore the issues that we face as a community. So we're not talking about it from our personal perspective, because there are little boys out there who aspire to be with those kind of women. And those kind of women reinforce that particular narrative. So that's what we're talking about, not what we do on an everyday basis. Because I don't now, the way that I am, based on who I was when I was younger and not feeling able to express myself emotionally, I still struggle with some of that, but I'm aware of it and I'm challenging and I'm still working on it. But I'm in a place where I'm very aware of that. But there's a lot of boys that are not aware of that. They think that's the norm. If they see me as an adult black guy on the train crying, they would be laughing and say, that guy's moist.
Even if I saw you crying on the train, I would say the exact same thing.
Well, and that's good to know. Thank you very much. And but what that does is, what this is about is now challenging those kind of young boys to actually think, I know you think that because of all these things in the society, but should we be challenging them further to think, where did that come from? Is that the right way for us to express our emotions? Is that the right way for us to show support and solidarity within ourselves? Yeah. That's the question that we're putting out there.
And that's what I mean, as in, with all that's been said, charity has to begin at home. And that's what I mean by, first instance, we got to neglect. Yeah, if the woman is the one that has asked for that or that or that or that, that is irrelevant at the beginning. We got to first heal ourselves. We got to first come to a point where we're very comfortable. There is a reason why when we come into this room, you do not gravitate to a certain kind of woman, because you automatically acknowledge it's going to be toxic. There's a reason why you acknowledge that and you don't feel. It's not about insecurity. It's about knowing facts. Because you've gone to a point where you know yourself. You've gone to a point where even though you understand you've got some certain insecurities or vulnerabilities, you understand that, and that brings the same kind of growth, right?
Absolutely.
So, and that is by knowing yourself and almost healing yourself and coming to understanding. And then once you're there, you can now then engage with the world. You cannot, no matter who you are with, right? If you are not secure or you're not whole, you're gonna ruin it, regardless of how amazing that person is or how bad that person is. So firstly, we need to come to a point where we're not even looking at the opposite sex, or we're not looking at the partner, or we're not looking at the world. We're internalizing our things first and healing ourselves. And then we can then step out and then engage, because this is not a perfect world. You're not gonna step out of this into the world and meet perfect people. You're gonna step out into the world and you're gonna meet flawed people who are as flawed as yourself or even more flawed. So firstly, you need to engage with yourself first, and then you step out into that world.
Absolutely.
So
I
that's
agree.
what I mean by, you could separate the two, because one, you have people that might elicit that toxic things in you. But once you understand yourself, you can know, okay, this is what's going to elicit that toxicness. Maybe I might avoid that.
Absolutely.
And then go there.
I think it's two sides of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. two sides.
As we always advocate is to be accountable for self. And that's the first thing.
That's core.
And then outside of that is to also work on changing the other factors.
That's it.
Outside of that.
That's
So
it.
I think we kind of agree on that front.
Do we?
For the first time, we do.